All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into AMD, to see if it's a stock that might be a good fit for your portfolio. You've sent us a whole bunch of articles and research, and we're going to break it all down for you.
Yeah, AMD's story, it's really something. They've gone from underdog to a real powerhouse in the semiconductor world, always fighting for their place.
And I read that they were actually founded by a group that left Fairchild Semiconductor,
Yeah,
which, if you remember, is the same company that spawned Intel, their biggest competitor.
that's right. AMD's journey began back in 1969, initially focusing on logic and RAM chips. But by 75, they jumped into the microprocessor game, became a second source manufacturer for Intel's by 86 chips.
Hmm, interesting move. But I imagine that put them right in Intel's crosshairs, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That move led to a whole series of legal battles with Intel.
So basically, AMD had to fight for their survival right from the get-go. But let's fast forward a bit. How's their performance been lately, in recent years?
Well, if you look at their financials, from 2017 to 2023, their revenue shows some serious growth. Went from $5.3 billion in 2017 all the way to $22.6 billion in 2023.
Wow, that's quite a jump. But what about their profitability? Are they actually making money?
Oh yeah, their net profit's been climbing too, from a pretty modest 43 million in 2017 to 854 million in 2023. Shows they're not just growing revenue, they're managing costs effectively as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign for investors. But how does all that translate to their market position, especially going up against, giants like Intel and NVIDIA?
Well, AMD is the second largest when it comes to those by 86 compatible microprocessors, and they're a major supplier of GPUs too. So they're competing directly with Intel in the CPU market and NVIDIA in the GPU market.
So two huge battles, huh? Are they winning? What kind of market share are we talking about?
They haven't quite caught up to their rivals in terms of market share, but they're definitely gaining ground, especially their Ryzen CPUs. They've made a real splash, offering solid performance at different price points.
So they're attracting customers with those CPUs. What about the GPUs? How are those stacking up against NVIDIA, who seem to really be dominating that space?
AMD's Radeon GPUs are making some headway, particularly in the server and workstation markets, places where high-performance computing and AI are really taking off. Their Radeon Instinct line, which is specifically designed for those applications, it's gaining some traction, but NVIDIA still has a strong lead overall.
Sounds like they're making some smart moves to carve out their space. And the financial performance definitely looks like they're a company on the rise.
Yeah, they've shown some real resilience, always innovating to stay in the game. But we got to talk about their valuation. Because
Yeah.
in March 2024, their market cap, it went over $300 billion for the first time, driven by a general surge in semiconductor stocks.
That's a pretty big milestone. But I've seen some analysts expressing concern about that valuation, haven't you?
Yeah, there's that Zacks Value scorecard. It gives AMD a D grade that suggests they might be overvalued.
Mm.
So investors, they really need to weigh that carefully. While the growth is there, the question is, does the stock price accurately reflect their long-term potential?
That's a good point. The market can get a little ahead of itself sometimes, especially when it comes to growth companies. Speaking of growth, AMD's been making some pretty big acquisitions lately. Could you fill us in on those?
Sure. One of the biggest was the acquisition of Xilinx back in 2022, estimated at $50 billion. Xilinx is a leader in field programmable gate arrays, or FPGAs.
Now, just for our listeners who might not be familiar with FPGAs, what are they exactly, and why was this acquisition so significant for AMD?
So FPGAs, think of them as chips that can be reprogrammed after they're made. Makes them incredibly versatile, valuable for tons of applications, telecommunications, data centers, even aerospace. This acquisition, it really broadened AMD's product portfolio, opened up some new avenues for growth.
I see. That makes a lot of sense, especially as those sectors you mentioned, they're only getting bigger. Any other acquisitions worth noting?
Yeah, in July 2024, they acquired Silo AI. It's a Finnish AI startup. Cost them $665 million. That move, it's a clear signal they're getting serious about competing in the AI chip market, which right now is dominated by NVIDIA.
So with these acquisitions, they're not just adding products, they're making strategic moves to position themselves for the future, for growth in AI and specialized computing.
Exactly. AMD, they have a history of adapting and reinventing themselves. They've always pushed the limits of what's possible in computing. And these acquisitions, it's all part of that strategy.
All right, so we've looked at their financials, their place in the market, and those recent acquisitions. But let's shift gears a bit. Talk about their services business. How does that fit into their overall plan?
AMD, They've made a conscious decision to focus mainly on designing and developing CPUs and GPUs. And for some aspects of their business, they partner with other companies. For example, they don't design server chipsets anymore. They let firms like NVIDIA and Broadcom handle that for their Opteron processors. Lets AMD concentrate on their core strengths.
That's an interesting approach, choosing their battles, so to speak.
Yeah.
What about chipsets for their other products, like for the Radeon GPUs? Do they outsource those too?
Actually, no. For those, they acquired the design team that created the Radeon Express chipsets, and they sell those under their own brand now. So they brought that expertise in-house. Gives them control over a pretty critical part of their GPU offerings.
So they're very strategic about what they control directly and where they bring in partners. But let's step back a little. Look at the bigger picture. What impact is AMD having on the overall economy?
Well, their impact goes way beyond just the tech world. For example, their technology. It powers all three major next-generation gaming consoles: PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo.
Wow, that's a pretty big endorsement of their technology and their market reach.
It really is. Shows their ability to tailor their products to specific markets and work effectively with major players. And beyond that, they've been tapped to develop those exascale supercomputers for the U.S. Department of Energy.
And just for our listeners, those supercomputers are incredibly powerful machines. They do a phenomenal amount of calculations per second. They're used for cutting-edge research, climate modeling, any task that needs massive computing power. So AMD isn't just focused on consumer products. They're involved in some really crucial scientific endeavors too.
Right. And they're also teaming up with Samsung to develop a mobile processor based on their RDNA2 architecture. That'll be used in future Samsung products. So you can see their technology is becoming integral to so many things: entertainment, personal computing, scientific breakthroughs, national infrastructure, you name it.
That's quite an impact. But for individual investors, the big question is AMD stock a good fit for their portfolio? Let's dig into the pros and cons, help our listeners make an informed decision. Starting with the positives, what are some of the advantages of owning AMD stock?
Well, first off, they have that strong financial performance, and there's definite potential for growth. Revenue and profits have been rising steadily. They've carved out a real presence in the CPU and GPU markets.
So track record and future prospects, both looking good. What else makes them attractive to investors?
Their dedication to innovation, that's a huge plus. I mean, look at their Zen architecture. It's revolutionized CPU design, shows their commitment to pushing the envelope, technologically speaking, and the acquisition of Xilinx, that shows their strategic focus on those new and rapidly growing markets.
And let's not forget that strong position they have in the gaming console market.
Absolutely. Powering all three major consoles, that says a lot about their capabilities and their ability to secure partnerships with major players.
And their involvement in those cutting-edge projects like the exascale supercomputing shows their commitment to pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
No doubt, they're not just keeping up with technological advancements, they're actively shaping the future of computing.
So it sounds like there's a lot to like about AMD as an investment. But like any investment, there are risks, potential downsides too. We got to be real about that.
Of course, no investment is risk-free. So let's take a look at some of the possible drawbacks of owning AMD stock.
What are some of the red flags that investors should watch out for?
The big one is the competition. Intel and NVIDIA, those are established giants. They've got resources and a long history of dominance.
Right, so there's always that chance they could make a comeback or AMD's growth could slow down as the competition heats up.
Exactly. And the semiconductor industry, it's known for being volatile. Economic downturns, shifts in demand, those things can impact the entire sector, AMD included.
So even though they've been resilient in the past, there's no guarantee they'll always be immune to those broader forces. Anything else investors should be wary of?
Well, their valuation, that's another area that deserves careful consideration. As we said, some analysts think the stock might be overvalued. That D-grade from the Zacks value scorecard, it supports that concern.
So investors need to really assess if that current stock price is justified by the fundamentals, by their long-term prospects. What about their dividend policy? Do they offer a dividend to shareholders?
No, not currently. They've chosen to reinvest profits back into the company to fuel their growth and those innovation initiatives.
And have they been repurchasing their own shares, those share buybacks, as a way to return value to shareholders?
Not at the moment. Their priority has been on strategic acquisitions and R&D, to drive future growth.
So while there's no immediate income from dividends or buybacks, investors are banking on that potential for capital appreciation through stock price increases. But these days, there's also that growing emphasis on ESG factors, environmental, social, and governance. How does AMD measure up on that front?
AMD has shown a commitment to sustainability. They've got various environmental initiatives. For one, they're part of the Green Grid. It's an industry group focused on improving energy efficiency in data centers, which is a big concern given how much energy those centers use.
So they're taking steps to minimize their environmental footprint. That's important, both ethically and practically.
Definitely. They're recognizing the importance of sustainability, both for the planet and for their long-term business success. AMD's journey, it's marked by some really strategic decisions, bold moves that have kind of shaped their path.
It's impressive how they've not just survived, but thrived in such a tough industry.
Hmm.
What are some of those key decisions that stand out to you?
Well, early on, embracing that x86 architecture, that was huge. Even though it meant legal challenges, aligning themselves with the industry standard, it allowed them to tap into that rapidly growing market.
So instead of trying to create something entirely new, they went head-to-head with Intel on Intel's turf.
Yeah.
That must have taken some guts.
It was risky, no doubt. But it paid off. They got a foothold in the market, built a reputation as a real alternative to Intel. Another big one, their acquisition of ATI Technologies back in 2006.
Right, they brought them into the world of GPUs. I remember some people questioning that move at the time.
Oh, yeah, there were definitely some raised eyebrows. But looking back, it was a pretty visionary decision. The GPU market, it's exploded since then. Gaming, AI, high-performance computing, all driving that growth. And now AMD's Radeon GPUs, they're going toe-to-toe with NVIDIA. And that segment, it's a major growth driver for AMD.
So they've gone from being that second source manufacturer for Intel to a company with CPUs, GPUs, and now FPGAs too, thanks to Xilinx. That's a pretty amazing transformation.
It really is. And it's not just about expanding their product line. They're actively involved in developing cutting-edge technologies that are shaping the future of computing.
Their work on those exascale supercomputers, that's a perfect example.
Absolutely. Those supercomputers with the power to perform a quintillion calculations per second, it's mind-blowing. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Scientific research, climate modeling, so many fields. AMD's involvement in projects like that, it shows their commitment to pushing the limits of computing power.
And acquiring Silo AI, that shows their ambition to be a real force in the AI chip market,
Yeah.
which everyone's saying is going to grow exponentially.
They're aiming to be a major player in the AI revolution, leveraging both their CPU and GPU expertise to create specialized chips for those complex AI workloads. It's a smart move, positioning themselves to capitalize on one of the most transformative technologies out there.
So they're not just content with being a hardware provider. They want to be at the forefront of these technological advances that are shaping the future.
Their history, it's all about taking risks, embracing innovation, and adapting to the market. They've faced their share of challenges, legal battles, economic downturns, fierce competition.
But they've come out stronger each time, which, for investors, is a good sign.
Yeah, that resilience, it's definitely appealing. It sets them apart in the tech sector, which can be, well, pretty unpredictable.
So, from an investor standpoint, what are the key takeaways when considering AMD?
Well, the main thing is AMD is a growth company. They've consistently outperformed the market in terms of revenue and profit growth. That points to a solid foundation. And their focus on innovation, expanding their product line, those strategic acquisitions, it all suggests they're on track for continued growth.
But investors got to be aware of the risks, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the semiconductor market. It's cyclical. It's susceptible to those swings in demand and economic downturns.
Right. And even with their recent success, they're still up against some stiff competition. Intel and NVIDIA aren't going anywhere, and that valuation, it's something to think about. Some analysts think the stock's overvalued.
So due diligence is key. Investors need to weigh those potential rewards against the risks. Figure out if AMD fits their goals and their risk tolerance.
Absolutely. Investing always has some level of uncertainty. Thorough research is essential.
We've talked a lot about their past and present. But what about the future? What can investors expect from AMD in the years to come?
It's tough to predict the future with certainty, but there are definitely some trends to watch. Those recent acquisitions, Xilinx and Silo AI, they show AMD is serious about those high-growth markets. AI, data centers, high-performance computing.
All areas that are growing fast.
Yeah.
Driven by things like cloud computing, the explosion of data, and all those AI applications popping up everywhere. So positioning themselves in those markets, that could lead to some major growth for AMD.
Exactly. And that Zen architecture, keep an eye on that. Each new generation of Zen processors brings some serious performance improvements, helps them compete with Intel. That ongoing innovation, it's crucial.
And for GPUs, their Radeon Technologies group, they're always pushing the limits of graphics tech for both gaming and professional uses. The demand for high-performance graphics, it's only going up, so that's a key area for AMD.
And they're also exploring new technologies like chiplets. That involves connecting multiple smaller chips to create larger, more powerful processors. It's a whole new approach to chip design and manufacturing. Could be a game changer for AMD in terms of creating even more innovative and cost-effective products.
So they're not resting on their laurels. They're investing in R&D, staying ahead of the curve, holding on to that leadership position in the semiconductor world.
Their story's far from over. They embrace change, they adapt to new challenges, and they're always trying to push those boundaries. It makes them a really interesting company to follow, both for investors and for anyone who's excited about the future of technology.
We've really dug into AMD's numbers, their strategic moves, where they stand in the market. But let's zoom out a little, look at the bigger picture, their impact on a broader scale.
Yeah, AMD's influence, it goes way beyond just the tech industry. Their technology is driving innovation and advancements in so many sectors, impacting us in ways we probably don't even realize.
Like we talked about, their role in those exascale supercomputers for the Department of Energy, those machines, they're not just about raw power, right? They're enabling breakthroughs in research, medicine, even climate modeling.
Exactly. Those supercomputers, they're tackling some of the biggest challenges we face. And AMD's technology, it's right at the heart of it. Their ability to deliver that kind of computing power, it's driving progress in fields that could benefit everyone.
And of course, we can't forget their impact on the gaming world, which has become, well, a global phenomenon. AMD, they power all three major next-gen consoles: PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, bringing those immersive gaming experiences to millions of people.
Yeah, their role in gaming is huge. And they're not just providing the hardware, they're developing technologies that actually enhance the gaming experience, like Fidelity FX, that improves image quality and performance.
And FreeSync gets rid of screen tearing and stuttering, makes for a much smoother gameplay.
It's clear that AMD's technology, it's all around us. From cutting-edge research to entertainment in our living rooms, their reach is global and their influence is only growing as they keep innovating and moving into new markets.
So for investors, for anyone interested in the future of tech, AMD is a company to keep an eye on. They've shown they can adapt, evolve, and stay relevant in a fast-changing industry.
Yeah, their journey's been all about resilience, innovation, pushing those boundaries. Their story, it's really a testament to human ingenuity and the potential of technology.
As we wrap up our deep dive into AMD, let's go over some of the key takeaways for our listeners.
AMD, they're a company that's really hitting its stride. Their financials are solid, they're gaining market share, and they're putting a lot into innovation to secure their future. They're playing a key role in shaping the future of computing, from powering the devices we use every day to enabling those breakthroughs in research.
The competition in semiconductors is tough, and it's a cyclical industry, no doubt. But AMD's growth story, it's compelling. They've got a history of resilience, a commitment to innovation. It suggests they're ready for whatever challenges come their way.
For investors, AMD presents a really interesting opportunity. There's potential for significant growth. But of course, you have to consider the risks. Do your research, figure out if AMD aligns with your goals and your risk tolerance.
If you're looking for a company that's on the cutting edge, a company with the potential for substantial returns, AMD's definitely worth a look.
And for anyone who wants to dive deeper into AMD or other exciting investment opportunities, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be sharing more deep dives, market analysis, all that good stuff to help you make informed decisions.
And don't forget to leave your comments and suggestions below. Tell us what stocks you'd like us to cover next. We're always looking for new companies to explore, new stories to uncover.
Until next time, happy investing.